Good evening. Welcome to a special meeting of the Greenwich Board of Selectmen. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. There's a copy of this evening's revised agenda on the table as you come in the meeting room, along with two sets of the materials that were submitted to the board for items that are before us this evening. It is a public meeting. It is not a public hearing. The chair reserves the right to call upon any individual who has a particular question or comment on a matter that is specifically before the board. To explain a couple of the matters on the agenda, or explain the agenda a little bit more clearly tonight, we have under old business a request for municipal improvement status for the New Lebanon Elementary School. Most in attendance can attest to the time frame in which this issue has been percolating, beginning with the Board of Education's adoption of educational specifications in January of 2015. This matter was before the Board of Estimate and Taxation and RTM through the course of the budget process. On April 30th, the Board of Selectmen was tasked with considering MI. On May 8th, the board took a tour looking at that time, Scheme C. On May 14th, the Board of Selectmen discussed Scheme C and proceeded to nominate members for the Building Committee. On May 28th, this board denied MI for Scheme C. On June the 4th, the Board of Ed presented amended educational specifications for Schemes B and D. On June 5th, the Board of Selectmen BOE presented information regarding Scheme D. We also, on June 8th, approved the Building Committee nominations at the RTM. The BOE held a public hearing on June 9th on B and D. On June 16th, the BOE approved revised ed specs for B. On June 18th, the Building Committee organized. On June 19th, the Board of Selectmen denied MI for Scheme B and also nominated an additional Building Committee member. And on June 23rd, the Board of Education approved Scheme D. And so tonight, June 29th, we are now presented with Scheme D. So that is to give you an overview of where we've been since the beginning of this year, calendar year, with this issue. In addition, the board did request that the Board of Selectmen consider municipal improvement status for the placement of modular classrooms at the Western Middle School. Initially, that item was not on the agenda. It was put on the revised agenda, and subsequently we were asked to defer action on that to give the board and the administration ample time to present all the particular information required for an MI to proceed. So that item is still on our agenda. It will move from new business to old business, and we stand ready when the administration has the information that they're looking to present to take that up, whether it be next week, next month, or in September, as has been indicated by the administration. Finally, you see an item under on the agenda titled Executive Session. One of the issues that we've asked the emergency services to address, both police, fire, and EMS, were concerns that were expressed during the course of the discussions about the safety of the existing location. Now, it's been fairly transparent in the press comments that each of the services have addressed that, but since this is the formal process, members of this board did want each of the heads of those entities present to comment at the appropriate time on that specific issue. The fact is, under the Freedom of Information Act, you couldn't go into executive session for purposes of employee matters, strategy and negotiations, and security matters. So it is permissible. I know there's been some comments from those in the press or on the political fringe who think that it can't be. But the fact is we may not. Because unless they're going to get into strategy for combating a particular type of incident, which I don't foresee, I don't think there's a necessity for that. I spoke to the deputy chief who is with us tonight, and they're going to be commenting specifically on how they look at the facility overall. And once that facility is in the process of design, then they'll work with whomever is doing that to incorporate changes or elements that will make the building most secure. So for purposes this evening, I don't think there will be a necessity unless there's questioning that gets very, very granular and specific to strategy in combating a particular type of security event. But I just want to point that out because I know there are people who have expressed concerns one way or other. So before us tonight is the Board of Education and the school administration and Giusalfi's presentation of scheme, or I like to call them plans. I have an issue with the word scheme, but Plan D. And so the floor is yours. If you could please share with us your... And I also just want to note that there are several other town officials here in the audience, our town planner, Katie DeLuca, our assistant town attorney, Eugene McLaughlin, our fire chief, Pete Szynski, our director of Greenwich Emergency Medical Services, Charlie Tufts. And I see a couple of Board of Ed and BET members as well.
RTM.
And RTM.
Good evening.
So welcome, Michael.
Michael Tribe from Peter Giusalfi Associates. With me is Ronan Wilk. He's the head of our landscape department at Peter Giusalfi's. And we do have a slide presentation. We're waiting for it to turn on. It's fairly simple. We've added one document that you haven't seen before. There's a presentation that Michael Finkbeiner, I don't know if you pronounced the name properly, he presented a drawing showing that starting from the southern end of the ravine, there's a stream that crosses a culvert under James Street and under I-95 and actually ends up on the Byram River. So that's a document that will, oh, here we go. Let me just move so that you can see. So starting where we had presented previously, it's a couple of documents and issues that you've seen before, but this just defines the general area and the uses around the New Lebanon School. And this was what was mapped previously as a wetland. And what Michael was presenting is something new that the town is just mapping right now. And there's a small stream that crosses James Street and I-95. There's a couple of culverts and ends up over here. So that's just new information that we have to be aware of. Again, how the building sits on the site as it's turned. And this is Scheme D. And what we've done is we've incorporated as many comments as we could that we've heard from you, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Education, the community, the administration. And we've mostly occupy the upper part. The light's not working. There we go. The upper part where the school currently is located. This is that part of the building right here. And we've moved the gym down in front of the field so that there's some direct access from the field to the gymnasium. The main points to talk about is that the main access in and out is from Mead Avenue, which we heard that's very important. We've provided access on both sides of the building and parking up here and some smaller amount of parking in that location. There's the possibility of adding some a buffer zone separating these residences from the school in the future. The parking is up the hill in the southern part of the property. The field remains untouched and potentially could be enhanced. The area around the library remains the same, untouched, and needs further study in terms of the traffic patterns. And the actual shape of the building, there's a C-shaped building here and a wing coming out there, and it creates two play areas. It naturally creates zones for playgrounds, an upper one and a lower one. And if we go to the plans, that part that sticks out in front of this is a one-story building over here with a floor below, right there, and a floor above the sea over here. So the whole building is a two-story building. And the wing that comes out in front of the field would house the gym and the cafeteria, and then the classrooms follow, and here's the library in that location. So you have these two drawings in front of you. One is a rendering, and the other one is more of an analytical drawing, again emphasizing that we're not affecting the field, we're improving access to the site, we're minimizing disturbance to the natural features in the wooded area, provided enough parking, and created a building that has shapes that allows for outdoor activities. And potentially this area here, which is the southern part of the current New Lebanon School, could be developed further if another field is necessary, or it could be turned into woods or better, other ideas. So this is the general concept that we're presenting to you tonight.
Great, thank you. I would just say my initial reaction is extremely favorable. Personally speaking, I think it incorporates many of the elements that I feel meet some of the concerns that were expressed and achieves the ultimate objective, which provides a first-rate elementary educational facility to the residents of Byram. So I applaud you for your patience with us and with the process, but I do think the outcomes are always painful in getting to, but usually well worth it. I did want to make a point for those who are in the audience, not directly related to this, but there were four things that I wanted to touch on, and I missed the fourth one. Before we go on to other comments, because it may be percolating in the minds of some folks. So, Michael, again, thank you. I'm favorable to D.
Thank you.
We have had communication sent to us on what people are referring to as E. And I know that we've particularly got several sent to us today. I just want to take a moment to share with folks some information that was provided to me today that I think gives some resolution to that topic, and that is, back in 1979, the Planning and Zoning Commission, through that Board of Selectmen at the time, approved a municipal improvement for the dedication of open space around the Byram School. And at its meeting on June 19th, 1979, there was a dedication of 12.52 acres of Byram School site as parkland. So that was unanimously granted, the dedication of 12.52 acres of Byram School site as parkland back then. And under the statute 7-131N, taking of land previously intended for use as park or for other recreational or open space purposes, it essentially says, and law has confirmed, you'd have to replace that elsewhere in the community. And we know, even conceptually, if people were thinking of tit for tat, school there, parkland at the existing site, we know that there's a deed restriction on the existing New Lebanon School, and it has to be used for educational purposes. So I just wanted to share that with you. That was due to the good work of our Director of Parks, who was listening to some of the discussions and said, you may not be aware, but this was voted on. And then it was further backed up in looking at the pending open space plan, where it talks about protected public open space, and that falls within that. So I just wanted to get that out there for those who may have been interested in that. So at this time, I've asked my colleagues if you have any questions. Go ahead.
Sure. I guess to Bill or Barbara, the Site D in terms of the ed specs, I know the vote was 6-2, to Site D in terms of the ed, so all have been met on Site D, correct?
Yes.
In terms of, it has?
Yes.
Okay.
Just that I agree with what Peter said before. This looks like a very workable and good plan. Thank you.
If we could, since they've taken the time to be here, I'll begin with Ms. Tufts, who's the Director of Greenwich Emergency Medical Services. Essentially, the concerns were expressed about this particular location being perhaps more challenging than others to respond to. From an emergency medical services point of view, do you have anything you wish to comment on the record to that? If you would come forward, please. And if you could follow then fire and then police in that order.
We have, all right. Can do
Is
this.
there a microphone? Oh,
Right here. We actually researched the last 2 or 3 years of the number of times we've been to New Lebanon, and it's only been twice, but we've had absolutely no problem. And I would remind people that we also have placed defibrillators in all of the schools and trained personnel in the use of them, and part of that is an emergency planning, just going over the emergency plan, and so we're comfortable with it. In addition, the town has a plan for all of the schools for emergencies, and we're part of that planning. And so we are comfortable from an EMS point of view that we have access, easy egress. Sometimes the parking is difficult, but an ambulance makes it.
Great, thank you, Charlie. And from our Fire Chief, Peter Szynski.
Let's see if we can put this up here, out of the way. Good evening. There are no concerns as far as the fire department goes with the facility, and I just comment on a couple of things. Schools are regulated in the Fire Life Safety Code probably more than any other occupancy in the Life Safety Code, and that is because the overall view of the Life Safety Code has been to protect the student body at all costs. So things that you don't even think of are incorporated into school facilities. The construction type, for example. There might be a concern people may be having about access. Well, the way the Life Safety Code protects the student body is with a construction type that's of a better grade or quality. You don't see many school buildings built out of wood anymore. So you're talking about content type issues. So the construction type is put into place. There are escape windows in all student classrooms. The thought process in the Life Safety Code has been with getting the student body out of the building in the case of emergencies. And of course, as we know, that's transitioned a bit over the past several years. Panic hardware is incorporated into all school facilities. Monitored alarm systems for early detection are incorporated into all school facilities. Things as minor as sprinkler janitor closets are required in all school buildings. 6 foot of clear width in corridors are required in all school buildings. Even the doors that swing out into corridors, you may note that some classroom doors are pocket type doors so that they don't provide a obstruction to students as they're leaving the building. The location and placement of students is considered in the Life Safety Code. You don't have young students on second floors or in basement or lower floor areas because they have difficulty traversing the stairs. So all this is put into play in the Life Safety Code, which is a mandate and codified by Connecticut General State Statute. The only problems we have in school systems are minor ones. Things like the rated finish of curtains in the gymnasiums, maybe too much artwork on the corridor walls. We actually have requirements that are put into place that require the principals of all these buildings, and the school board is extremely good with all of these facilities, in fire drill requirements. They are required to do 12 fire drills in each school per year. 2 of those drills have to take place in the first 2 weeks of school, so that any changes for the student body are recognized early on for the purposes of order and control. The principal of each school on a daily basis has to check the egress to make sure the access, the exit itself, the doors, and the discharge areas away from the schools are continuously maintained clear and unobstructed. They do that, and they do that very well. The lockdown component that's been added in that we work with the police department has changed a bit as far as the security requirements for the school system, so that the concentration of just finding egress to get students out of the building is now working on finding a way to protect students in place. And police department, fire marshal's office have worked very diligently in providing lockdown drills in our schools and have an emergency procedure. Specifically to New Leb, the facility was inspected December 4th of 2014, again in January of 2015, with minor housekeeping violations which were corrected on site. And on April 1st, there was an inspection and a lockdown drill that took place, and everything in the school worked effectively and efficiently for the student body.
Great, thank you, Chief Szynski. Do you have any questions? We have with us Deputy Police Chief Mark Marino and Sergeant Mark Zuccarella, who can comment from the police
Good
security.
evening, sir. In consultation with Chief Heavey and our command staff, specifically Captain Barry, who's worked very closely with the Board of Education on a number of security-related issues, I'll say that the police department does not see any disadvantage or any major concerns with the current location and plan. We have worked very closely with the Board of Education for quite some time now in developing security plans for all of the schools, and we'll continue to do so. And as this plan goes forward, continue to work with them in the design plan so that we ensure adequate security.
Great. Do you have any questions on that? No. Do you have any questions? Thank you. That addressed our inquiry, and we thank you for that. So the item before us under old business is a request for municipal improvement for Plan D. In order to move it forward, there has to be a motion.
So moved.
Seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move forward as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So congratulations. You're now on to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. DeLuca is here tonight and can certainly pave the way for the next phase. And we look forward to further communication as to the second MI request in the timeframe. We stand ready if necessary to have a special meeting to facilitate that. There being no other further business to come before this special meeting, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Okay, without objection. Thank you.